Sometimes patients, more often it's patient hitting out. But a lot of time we find a patient with dementia, type of thing. So they're really not sure what they're doing, but still nursing was assaulted. And I've had experience with racial discrimination by patients.
Tell me what you experienced.
When I worked in Calgary at the Grace Hospital, labor and delivery, we had a patient came in, and I was in charge, and I sent one of the nurses. She went to admit the patient, and she didn't want a person of color to look after her. Because where she came from, there's no person of color.
So you said a nurse who was of color?
Oh, yeah.
To attend to a patient?
That's right. She was going to admit her and get her. But what is the funny part of this story is, that day, there were 3 of us working who were people of color. The obstetrician who was on call for the weekend, he was Oriental. The pediatrician was from Africa. So all of us who worked in upstate labor and deliver that weekend were people of color. I didn't want, so we called the administrator and said, you handle it. You handle it. Because we don't want to go interfere with this lady in case she accuses us of whatever. So anyhow, when it turned out, the husband calmed her down. But the funny part of this story was, he was a visiting prof at the university. And they were just here for a short time. So they weren't even Canadians.
And they were from somewhere else where?
I guess, they're from one of the European countries.
And so they were challenging the credentials?
No, they just didn't want a person of color touching her.
Mm-hmm.
So we called her doctor, and he said, I'm not coming in. I'm not in town. Dr. So-and-so is there. We'll look after her.
Which is a doctor? Who's
obstetrician.
Of color?
Chinese.
And what did the patient do?
She eventually she had no choice.
Suck it up.
But I can tell you one thing, we were so sweet to her. We were so nice. We made sure she got the best care anybody can give.
Did the patient apologize? Or?
The husband did, but not the patient.